I would definitely watch out for this arc machine gun because this is definitely not a resident sleeper. Being an aggressive frame machine gun, it has high damage and high recoil with no other intrinsic benefits. Taking a look at the stats, we have 33 impact, 49 stability, 37 reload speed, 39 range, 43 handling, 56 aim assist, 19 airborne effectiveness, and it shoots at 600 rounds per minute, has a pretty whatever recoil direction of 64. The cone is also slightly leans towards the right, but it's mainly centered, and it actually has a magazine of 64 and not 52. D2 Foundry is just lying. So stat wise, it's not too bad, but that doesn't really matter because if we take a look at the origin trait, Willing Vessel, dealing damage or defeating targets with this weapon gradually grants increased stability, handling, reload speed, and charge rate. This effect gradually decreases over time, but is gained more quickly while near allies. Now, unlike the Adamantite, where you might sometimes be healing your allies, so you aren't able to proc Willing Vessel, with the Watchful Eye, you're always going to be shooting at enemies, so you will always be proccing Willing Vessel. So the stats of stability, handling, and reload speed will always be increased at a much more consistent rate because you'll probably be at 5 stacks of Willing Vessel a lot more consistently. A Guardian is first watchful, that they might know the right action. And after having watched this, the right action is to hit that like button. Arrowhead Break, plus 30 recoil direction, plus 10 handling. It's not too bad. I mean, it does fix the recoil issues if you do have any recoil issues. Like, to be fair, the weapon does have a bit of a kick to it, but I mean, I don't think it's that bad. So personally, I don't really care about the recoil direction at all, but the plus 10 handling is not that bad. Chambered Compensator, plus 10 stability, plus 10 recoil direction, minus 5 handling. Sure, if you want more stability, Corkscrew Rifling, plus 5 stability, plus 5 range, plus 5 handling. It's pretty balanced. Plus 5 range is not that bad. Extended Barrel, minus 10 handling, plus 10 range, plus 10 recoil direction. Honestly, pretty good. Can't really go wrong with having more range, and a little bit fixed to the recoil is also not that bad. The decrease to the handling is kind of annoying, but if you do have Willing Vessel proc, then it's a bit compensated. Fluid Barrel, plus 5 stability, plus 15 handling, not that bad. Full Bore, minus 10 stability, plus 15 range, minus 5 handling. Honestly, not that bad because, once again, Willing Vessel does grant stability, handling, and reload speed, so getting more range is not the worst thing considering, you know, this thing doesn't have the greatest of range. Hammer Forge Rifling, plus 10 range without any downsides. Polygonal Rifling, plus 10 stability. It's okay, but I mean, I think it's just frankly way worse than Chambered Compensator because there you also get the plus 10 to recoil direction control. And Small Bore, plus 7 stability, plus 7 range. It's just in the middle of the road. It's not that bad because once again, range on this weapon is pretty low, so getting up to 46 is not that bad, and plus 56 stability, or plus 7 to 56 stability is also not that bad. Personally, I would go for Full Bore for that plus 15 to range, even though there is a minus 10 to stability and minus 5 to handling. Willing Vessel, dealing damage, will just grant us stability, handling, and reload speed. So moving on to the mags, Extended Mag grants us plus 16 magazine, minus 18 reload speed, and plus 10 airborne effectiveness. Honestly, out of all the mag choices, this is probably the one you want to go for. Alloy Magazine, faster reload when the magazine is nearly empty. Linearly grants a reload duration multiplier as your magazine drops from 50% capacity to empty. Reload duration multiplier scales from 0.9 at 50% capacity to 0.8 times with an empty magazine. As a magazine type, it's fine, but honestly, you want one that's gonna grant you more ammo if you do plan on picking up one of the magazine perks. A Pen & Mag, this weapon's magazine is built for hard capacity, and it grants us a plus 11 magazine size with no downsides. Good perk, but I'll spoil it now. We don't really care about the negative effects to our reload speed, even though the reload speed on a machine gun is pretty bad. And for the reason of us not really caring about reload speed, or at least I don't care about reload speed, as we'll get into in just a sec, Flared Magwell, which grants us plus 14 reload speed and plus 5 stability, and Light Mag, which grants us plus 9 reload speed and plus 5 range, are both pretty worthless. Although, to be fair, Light Mag plus 5 range is not that bad. While Light Mag does grant us a plus 5 to our range, so do the rounds. Armor piercing rounds cause extra damage to combatant shields and over-penetrate targets. Grant 5% increased damage against elemental and barrier champion shields. Allow bullets to over-penetrate enemies once. They also grant us plus 5 range. High caliber rounds, shots from this weapon knock the target back further. Hits inflict increased flinch on enemies. Tier 1 to 2 miners can be repeatedly staggered. Higher tier combatants stagger quicker. Ricochet rounds. Rounds ricochet off hard surfaces. Increases stability by plus 10 and slightly increases range by plus 5. So if you didn't want to go for the extended mag to get you that giant magazine size, plus 16, then I would definitely recommend one of the 3 round options. to give you that +5 range over something like light mag. If you just want the pure damage increase, armor piercing rounds is a good option. And if you do want the increased stability and I guess your rounds to ricochet, then you do have ricochet rounds. I do have a rule with ricochet rounds, but I honestly don't know how effective the rounds of ricocheting actually are. You are able to visually see the effect, which is cool, I guess. So there is that. And my personal pick would be high caliber rounds. The stagger is noticeable in, being able to push away ads and higher level content does help technically keep you safe, although they'll probably be dead by the time they get pushed back. But that is a slight, or not even slight, that is the entire purpose of the high caliber rounds. So personally, I prefer high caliber rounds, but ricochet rounds, it is kind of cool to see the effect. Armor piercing rounds are also decent if you just want the raw damage, and extended mag if you just want a larger mag, which you might want. Theoretically, probably the best option just for more magazine size, allows you to shoot more bullets. That's just more damage. So, all right, moving on to the third column, we finally have the interesting perks. And it first starts off with what I think is best in slot for this third column, Overflow. Picking up special or heavy ammo loads this weapon even further beyond normal capacity. Upon picking up special or heavy ammo, refills and overfills the magazine from reserve. Overfill amount maxes out at 120% in the hands of the magazine capacity. It activates even while stowed. This effectively means you can have over 200 bullets in your magazine, which is just absolutely insane. And it cuts out one of the biggest downsides of machine guns, which is their absurd reload time. Like, look at that, 37 reload speed, 5.11 second reload time. Disgusting. Overflow negates that completely. Of course, it does require you to step over a brick after generating it. Well, technically you don't have to generate it, but it does require you to step over a brick. But that's pretty common, so this is not the hardest trait to proc. Now, because overflow just completely negates you having to reload it in the first place, I think something like Eddy Current, which is the second obvious choice because of the arc synergy, is completely wasted. Complete bait perk. Temporarily increases reload speed and handling after sprinting or while amplified. Increased reload speed and handling have a longer duration. This effect is significantly improved when you are amplified. Grants the following after sprinting for 1.5 seconds with the weapon ready. 20 reload speed, 0.95 times reload duration multiplier, some amount of handling, and a 0.95 times handling animation duration multiplier. Sprinting refreshes the buff duration. Being amplified removes the sprinting requirement completely and increases the reload speed stat bonus to 60. This increase to our handling is okay, and the bonus of 60 reload is obviously excellent. However, overflow, once again, just completely negates the fact that we have to reload in the first place. And so even if we had a high reload speed, because the natural reload time of the machine gun is so high, we're still gonna have to reload for like 3 seconds, which still feels pretty bad. Fuel prep greatly increased ammo reserves. Improve faster reload stow and ready when you are crouching. Runs the following while crouched. Enhanced, obviously. 55 reload speed, 0.8 times reload duration multiplier, and a 0.8 times ready stow duration multiplier. Passively grants 40 inventory size stats, equivalent of 2 reserve armor mods. Not terrible, and I guess the ammo reserves is something, but honestly, once again, overflow just completely negates you having to reload in the first place, and while having more ammo in your reserves is fine, not having to waste any time reloading is actually just such a lifesaver. Like, it just feels so much better. Dynamic sway reduction rapidly improves accuracy and stability while continuously holding down the trigger. Each shot while holding down the trigger grants the following benefits: 1.25 stability, some percent decrease to the accuracy cone size, and a 12.5% decreased accuracy cone growth. Reaches maximum strength after 8 shots, granting 10 stability, some percent decreased accuracy cone size, and 100% decreased accuracy cone growth. This seems like a complete waste of a perk in PvE, so perhaps it's more useful in PvP if you use machine guns there. But a middling bonus or stability and some increase in the accuracy of our machine gun shots is like pretty bad. It's actually like pretty bad. Mulligan is interesting as missing a shot has an improved chance to return ammo directly to the magazine. Missing has a chance to refund 1 ammo into the magazine based on the ammo type. We are using a power weapon, so that would be 25% chance. Theoretically, this sounds okay because on a machine gun, you're going to be shooting a lot of shots, so there's a lot of opportunities for you to be refunded on your ammo, but we have overflow. So I guess if you're doing an activity that is extremely ammo unforgiving, then mulligan might make sense. So that would be like day one contest raids or dungeons, then maybe mulligan might make more sense. But in that situation, you might not even be pulling out a machine gun because machine guns are primarily for ad clear. And if you're using a machine gun in that context, you're probably more okay with wasting some bullets, just because not every bullet counts in a machine gun, because once again, you're mainly using it for ad clear and not boss damage. So theoretically, while this could be good, just the way ammo works and non-endgame modes in Destiny, it's kind of useless. Wellspring. Final blows with this weapon generate an improved amount of ability energy. This energy is divided between your uncharged abilities. On weapon kill, grants 9% ability energy split equally amongst all uncharged abilities. Abilities with multiple charges only receive 1/3 of the ability energy normally split to them once they have a full ability charge ready. Ability energy gain may be significantly decreased. Honestly, depending on the build you are running, Wellspring might actually not be a terrible option. The Watchful Eye is a machine gun, so you are mainly going to be using it to kill ads. So you will definitely be getting plenty of weapon kills, which would then play into the perk as you are then granted ability energy, which is then split against amongst all your abilities. So if you are on a build that primarily kills ads with your abilities, something like Wellspring might actually be pretty good, because regaining all of your ability charges in order to then spam your abilities in order to deal with the ads or whatever might be more beneficial to your gameplay than trying to kill ads using the machine gun itself. Hipfire Grip greatly increases accuracy, stability, and precision hit targeting when firing from the hit. Grants the following benefits while hip firing: 25 stability and 15 aim assist, 2.7 degree larger precision in cone angle, 30% decreased accuracy cone size, 20% increased aim assist fall off distance, and a 20% increased damage fall off distance. Realistically, you're probably not going to be using Hipfire Grip on this thing because there's not really any real synergy. But this, I guess, is an okay enough perk if you do really feel like hip firing your machine gun for some reason. But Hipfire Grip does exist, although I don't know who this is for, but it does exist. Oh, and unfortunately, Overflow does not actually work with Run It Over, the second origin trait that you can get on an adept version of the seasonal weapons. Oh, and unfortunately, Overflow does not work with Run It Over. Reloading your allies overflows the magazine. While within 15 meters of allies, finishing a reload overfills the magazine from reserves by 10% of the base magazine capacity rented up for each ally. Maximum of a 50% overfill. So you're not able to double stack into the overflow, which would be pretty crazy. It would be pretty cool synergy, but you are not able to proc Run It Over with overflow, so just stick with Willing Vessel. All right, moving over to the fourth column, we have Jolting Feedback as our first perk, and this is what I think is best in slot. So already at the first perk, we have what I think is best in slot for this weapon. Jolting Feedback, dealing repeated damage with this weapon, inflicts jolt at an increased rate. While amplified, jolt is applied faster. Scoring multiple direct hits with the weapon within 3 seconds of each causes the next direct hit to apply jolt. Being amplified decreases the number of hits required. Jolt is an arc verb that reads, jolted enemies will release chain lightning for 10 seconds, dealing 132 damage to all enemies within 8 meters upon taking 120 damage. The duration can be refreshed by reapplying Jolt. The damage from the hit that applies Jolt counts towards the damage threshold. Jolt has a 0.8 second cooldown between chain lightning activations. Overload champions become stunned upon receiving Jolt damage. So not only does this grant the Watchful Eye overload stunning capabilities, it also allows us to deal with ads while shooting a stronger target. Rolling Storm, Final Blows grant Bolt Charge. While amplified, Final Blows grant additional Bolt Charge, gain increased Bolt Charge stacks when you have none. Weapon kills grant 1 stack of Bolt Charge. While amplified, this is increased to 2 stacks. While enhanced weapon kills with no active Bolt Charge stacks grant an additional stack. This is a pretty decent perk once we understand what Bolt Charge actually is. Damage instances scored within 3 seconds of each while Bolt Charge is active increments a magazine capacity based counter towards gaining a stack of Bolt Charge. Grants 2.5% melee ability energy per bolt charge stack obtained, up to 25% melee ability energy over the 10 stacks needed to discharge. After half a second of scoring an ability hit or dealing unpowered melee damage while at 10 bolt charge stacks, discharges an arc bolt over the damaged enemy, dealing up to 450 bolt splash plus 300 floor splash to equal 750 total arc damage over some amount of meters. So while a nice bit of damage, the real benefit is it granting you 2.5% melee ability charge per bolt charge stack obtained. Of course, this synergizes into you then being able to release that arc bolt because then you're able to use your melee ability. Killing Tally. Final blows increase this weapon's damage until it is stowed or reloaded. Improves magazine size. Weapon kills grant a stack of Killing Tally, maximum of 3 stacks. Stowing and reloading the weapon removes all stacks. At 1 stack, you gain 10% increased damage, at 2 stacks, 20%, and at 3 stacks, 30%. Being enhanced, it passively grants a 10 magazine stat, especially when paired with Overflow, maintaining Killy Tally? Wow. A 30% damage increase is incredibly strong, and don't care for any of the arc synergies. Killing Tally is honestly pretty good. Elemental Honing, dealing unique elemental damage, grants this weapon a stacking damage bonus for an improved duration. Dealing elemental damage grants a stack of Elemental Honing for 23 seconds for each unique element used, maximum of 5 stacks. Getting a stack refreshes the buff duration. Duration cannot be refreshed at 5 stacks. Buff can be activated while stowed. Kinetic damage does not trigger the buff. So 1 stack you're at 2.5%, 2 stacks 10%, 3 stacks 20%, 4 stacks 30%, and 5 stacks 35%. Getting up to 5 stacks, even on Prismatic, can be a bit tricky. So realistically, you're probably gonna be around 4 stacks, which would grant you 30%, which is the same buff as Killing Tally. Now, while it is a little bit harder to activate, the one benefit is that this buff can be activated while stowed. So depending on the situation you're in, you don't need to get 3 kills before being able to get that damage buff. But realistically, you're using the machine gun for ad clear, so the easy to obtain 30% from killing 3 ads from Killing Tally is probably just going to be easier than Elemental Honing, especially if you're not on a Prismatic subclass. Surrounded, this weapon gains improved bonus damage when 3 or more targets are in close proximity. Being within 15 meters of 3 enemies grants a 47% increased damage. Buff lingers for 1.5 seconds once the condition is no longer met. Great damage bonus, however, realistically, you probably don't want to be in close proximity to any enemies when you're using this weapon, especially in higher level content, so proccing it is a bit risky. Target lock damage increases by an improved amount the longer this weapon remains on a target. Successive hits within 0.2 seconds of each grants a ramping damage buff after scoring 12.5% of the magazine capacity as hits. Missing deactivates the buff. Stacks displayed on screen are only visual aids. The buff ramps up with each shot once active. Reaches maximum strength at 5 stacks. Damage buff ramps up from 18.82% to 45% upon reaching maximum strength. Assuming no missed shots, it provides roughly a 28.13% damage buff on average after firing 100% of the magazine capacity. Because you're mainly using the machine gun for ad clear, you're not really going to be staying on a target for that long, and even if you were, it only provides a 28.13% damage buff on average, as long as you don't miss any shots, and that's only after firing 100% of the magazine capacity, so it's just way worse than Killing Tally or even probably Elemental Honing, especially on Prismatic, or probably even Surrounded, so not good. Sword Logic. Final blows with this weapon grant bonus damage for an improved duration. The strength and duration of the bonus increases when more powerful targets are defeated. Weapon kills grant stacks of Sword Logic. The number of stacks in the buff duration are tied to the highest enemy rank killed since activation. Miners 1 stack for 6.5 seconds. Elites or players 2 stacks for 8.5 seconds. Players in their super and mini bosses 3 stacks for 11.5 seconds. Bosses 4 stacks for 16.5 seconds. Damage increases at 1, 2, 3, 4 stacks. 1 stack 15%, 2 stacks 25%, 3 stacks 35%, and 4 stacks 50%. Additional kills refresh the buff duration to the duration tied to the highest enemy rank kill. So if you kill a boss, you do get a massive 50% increase to your damage, which you can then continue to refresh by killing other ads. But if you've killed a boss, there's usually not more ads for you to kill. So that 50% increase to your damage is just going to go completely wasted, almost certainly. which is kind of unfortunate. This is also a machine gun, so you're mainly going to be killing adds, which means you're only going to be killing miners, which only grants 15% increase to your damage. Elites are also probably killing elites is also probably pretty common, but that's also only 25% increase to your damage when you have something like killing tally, which is a pretty easy to activate perk and grants you 30%, and you don't have to worry about killing any elites. You can just kill basic red bars. Well, I guess technically, elites can also be red bars, but I'm talking about the trash. Now for our masterwork, I personally like range, so I'm going to go for range. That's bringing our range all the way up to 69 when you consider full bore and high caliber rounds. If you don't care about maximizing your range, I would probably then go for stability over handling in this situation, as I don't think, caring about the increase to your handling. Well, to be fair, Willing Vessel is there doing a good amount of carrying in our stability and handling, because we don't really care about realism because of overflow. But in the case of a machine gun, I do think having that stability and while you're getting beamed down from a bunch of random crap is probably a little bit better. But I do like range, so personally I would go for range. As for our mods, I mean, backup mag or adept mag, if you have an adept version, is pretty obvious. And especially with overflow, there's just great synergy, so backup mag is even better than it already is. I am a big fan of the seasonal mods though, so while they still exist, I think Power Resolve is still slightly better, but if you do care about, the recoil direction, or I mean, Amethyst does not really matter that much in PvE, not as much, so you mainly care about the bonus to your recoil direction, which is pretty strong, and possible overcharge, depending on when that is relevant. But Power Resolve is pretty nice, even though you do miss out on a lot of ammo from not having backup mag. With overflow, like overfilling your magazine anyways, you have a ton of ammo. And so for my personal god roll, I'm looking for full bore as my barrel to maximize that range, high caliber rounds for more range, and because I think the effect is cute, overflow for overfilling the magazine, and jolting feedback for more ad clear and overload stunning capabilities. Rolling Storm is a close second for granting me stacks of bolt charge, so for more melee orientated builds, or if I just want bolt charge, this exists, and I guess you get bolt charge on classes that aren't arc. And if you don't care about any of the arc synergy and just want to slate out, you do have killing tally, although personally I think the weapon damage is good enough because you're not really killing bosses with it. Although if you do care and are in slightly higher end content, killing tally is not that bad because of the easy to obtain 30% increase to your damage. Hipfire grip is kind of funny, but realistically, like who this is for is like one person. And Wellspring does have utility, but I'm probably not going to choose it over overflow for the purposes of what this weapon is trying to achieve. The perk choices here are pretty obvious, and unlike the Adamantite, it's not like there's a bunch of options to really explore or do a lot with. So I've had an overflow jolting feedback and overflow bolt charge roll for quite a while now. Still no shiny adept version of them. Oh, like it's so bad. The shiny adept drop rate is actually just, I know they're supposed to be rare, but oh my god, like you can only do the nether for so you can only run so many instances of the nether before just being like, okay, well, I'll just take my 2 separate rolls and have an unshiny version. Whatever. It's actually pain.